So when you have a piece of white paper in front of yourself and you're thinking about putting something on the paper, you can either sit there fixated for hours and drive yourself crazy, or you can kind of go for it. And in my experience anyway, the better thing is to start exploring, and it's that whole serendipitous process where if you don't start, you get more and more uptight. Now, I think for some people it may not work to start like that. They actually do have to think, and then they have a sudden vision, and there it is. But for me, I don't think that works as well. I think I have to discover what it is that I'm doing, not just come at it out of the blue. That being said, occasionally things will come out of the blue, but often I find it's when I'm doing it. It's not because I sat there for hours trying to think really profound thoughts about it. Often the first sketches, whatever you do, you just think, God, that's just terrible. You can reject them, but I think it's so easy to just crumple up a piece of paper and chuck it out if it's not any good. And by then you've already gone through all those kind of no good ideas and come to a better idea. I find even discussion with our clients and our staff and things, when we're going through a project, often when we're talking about the things, it's like you have to have your ears open when something comes up. And often it comes from the least likely place. You know, maybe your client's a banker or something, and they say, well, what about this? And it's like, oh my God, that's it. You know, and it's not. And you think, well, they're not the creative people, but you have to have your ears open. I think creative people are also able to listen and pluck something kind of from out of the air. It's out there, and it may not even be coming from you, but you've got the awareness to be aware that that might be a really good idea, and you kind of pluck it and use it. And so, at the end of the day, I think there's the myth about Frank Lloyd Wright, who was, I think, the same day the client was supposed to come to see the Falling Water project, he hadn't drawn anything, and suddenly he did it all in half an hour or something. And maybe he had that level of genius that it was just in his head and it suddenly came together. So it's not my experience like that, but I love that myth. It's great. It'd be nice if it worked like that. I do sense that in children there's generally a bit more openness to creativity, and people rather get stifled as they get later in life. They feel self-conscious, and it's like, I wouldn't want to sing in front of you right now because I would feel self-conscious, but I could do a drawing for you. So maybe the level of comfort that people have with their different skills allows them to express their creativity versus repressing it. And I think many people, maybe they're not as strong, or their influences aren't as strong in a creative field, so their self-consciousness is such that they go on to a technical area, or they go on to another field where they feel more comfort level in. But for me, creativity is always about asking, why couldn't we do it a different way, or why couldn't we do it this way when someone tells you you can't, and you say, well, why not? Wouldn't that be better? So you're always questioning things and stimulating your mind and your creative juices and having fun doing it versus feeling really uptight or boxed in. Being creative is also very, you forget yourself, you're into the work and hours can go by and you're really not even conscious. It's really like playing, it's a form of play. I think that's funny to reconcile with a professional area like architecture. There's so many technical requirements and things that you have to do, but really when it's at its best, you really are playing with what you're working with. You're getting inside it and making it more than the sum of the parts through your creative interaction. And 1 a.m, you suddenly realize that you've been at it for ages, and it's been like a Zen experience because you're not in your normal state of mind. I find it difficult to get out of it afterwards because I've been so into it that it takes me a while to kind of wind down and kind of go back into a normal state of mind. I hate to see people, closing their world up and reducing the number of influences versus going out there and being exposed to new influences. So I always like to go and see different art shows or buildings that are completely out there. It might not be something you'd ever do, but you just think, wow, someone really pushed the limits on this one, and how refreshing it was. And hopefully that would sink in your mind a little bit, and the next time you thought about a problem, you wouldn't just go to your area of safety. You'd push it a bit further. Even if you risk moving outside that area, you may end up at a point that you get something way more exciting.